Journalist Javed Rana joins us live from Islamabad, Pakistan, to discuss the latest updates from the 2024 U.S. elections. Good to see you, Javed. Now that Trump has won, how might the election outcome influence the U.S. stance on Israel-Palestine relations, particularly in light of the recent conflicts in the region?
Well, that's a black spot because I don't expect that there would be any major shift in so far as the U.S. foreign policy on apartheid state Israel is concerned, so far its policy on the Middle East is concerned. I can expect that there will be a lot of rhetoric coming from Washington, and they will be supporting the apartheid state in a manner that was being pursued during his first presidency, in a manner that is being pursued by the Joe Biden. There would not be any meaningful change. We can recall that when Donald Trump was president, I mean, he was engaged in a very hectic diplomatic campaign, as a result of which there was agreements with the UAE, with the Bahrain, and with the other Arab countries in the Africa, and as a result of which many countries normalized ties with the apartheid state. That is a dark reality. Under his presidency, Jerusalem, which is a disputed territory under the international law, it has to be given back. The Eastern Jerusalem has to be given back to the Palestinians. Instead, the entire Jerusalem was accepted by the U.S. formally as a part of Israel. And similarly, the disputed parts of Syria, between Syria and Israel, which were occupied by the apartheid state back in 1967, those were also formally accepted by the U.S., something the previous government before Donald Trump's were not conceding to. So that was in breach of the international law. I think in that context, the picture on Gaza is not good. But at the same time, we have to understand that by and large, he has postured himself that he's anti-war. And he has also made commitments with the Arab communities, with the Muslim communities in the US, that in return of their vote bank, their voting, he will bring an end to this war. But again, at what terms and conditions? It was Donald Trump's policy. This was so-called Abraham Accord, because of which there were, you may recall that in September last year, the then Israeli foreign minister said that 7 Muslim countries are going to normalize ties with Israel, which means on the terms and conditions laid down by Israel, without giving the two-state, without going for a two-state solution with the Palestinians. That is a terrible. And now with him coming back to power, I think since Zionists, they are deeply ingrained within the U.S. system. Like Joe Biden is a declared Zionist. In case of Donald Trump, I think his family links, he has Jewish links. Because of those reasons, I don't expect that there would be meaningful change. But I would also expect that at some point of time, there will be an end to this war. But again, bigger question is that can U.S. makes the things happen in the Middle East anymore? I don't see that happening, because Iran has projected itself in a manner that shows that apartheid state cannot carry out an attack on Iran and it would go unpunished. So there is a kind of a balance that Iran has managed to create. If Netanyahu believes that he can force Donald Trump to carry out an attack on Iran, that is not going to happen. Donald Trump, in the recent time, was the only US president who did not initiated wars. He closed down those wars. There was a peace agreement with the Afghan Taliban, which the then Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan facilitated. So they USA exited from Afghanistan as a result of a peace deal. He is known to be a peacemaker, at least that is what he has been projecting himself. In case of the Middle East, the peace deal that he had, with the Arabs, because of American diplomacy, I think that was the reason because of which October 7 military operation was launched by Hamas. Because Donald Trump pursued the agenda of Netanyahu's extremist agenda. As a result of that agenda was basically not to give a Palestinian a right of self-determination, a right of returning to the occupied land, and without giving those rights to the Palestinian, there was a so-called peace accord, something I previously referred about, and then Hamas and other jihadi groups, Palestinians felt so frustrated. Under Donald Trump's presidency, the funding to the Palestinian, that was also blocked. So, and people in the occupied territories, they feel so frustrated. And what happened on October 7, I think Abraham Accord is responsible for that. And that is where Donald Trump made his political capital. That is where the diplomacy of the American at that point of time worked. But again, Muslim countries are, particularly Palestinians are, they are between devils and deep sea. I mean, even if had Kamala Harris won the election, the situation would not have been very different. There would have been a different strategy. But the main policy of the USA would not change. Only hope is that probably this war would not expand to the extent of US joining Israel to carry out any attack on Iran. But rest of the policies of Donald Trump is going to be very different.
Now, speaking of humanitarian crises in conflict-affected areas like Gaza, but what about Lebanon? Will there be any change with Trump?
Well, again, the policy of the Americans would not be very different. The strategy would be different when it comes to ending war on Lebanon, when it comes to ending war in the occupied West Bank and occupied Gaza. And that, I think it would revolve around one point about the UN Security Council Resolution 1701, whereby basically the international community, so-called international community, wants the Lebanese government to be in charge on the borders and not the Hezbollah, which technically speaking is a militant group, Lebanese militant group. But we have to understand practically it is a far more powerful than the Lebanese military. It has been fighting to protect the Lebanese rights against Israel, and also it has been supporting the Palestinian cause. So I don't think this resolution may be because of the oppressive tactics that Israel has been using, because there has been carpet bombing, also genocide in parts of the Lebanon, and village after village, they have been straight away wiped out as a result of the extreme bombing by the Israeli Air Force. And everything is boiling down to one point, just one point, to force Hezbollah to stop supporting Palestinians, to de-link ceasefire. De-link ceasefire between Hezbollah and Israel, and not linking it with Gaza. That is one part. And the second thing that Israel right now is pursuing is basically to make it sure that UN Security Council resolution is implemented. But may I ask, if that is what is going to happen, and that is what is now the current American regime is pursuing, why not so many UN Security Council resolutions are not being implemented when it comes to the Palestine, when it comes to there is international consensus. There have been UN Security Council resolutions to go for a two-state solution. Again, this selective application of so-called international law creates more frustration among people. It militarizes people, particularly Palestinians. So what is what happened on October 7, it would keep on happening. Israel has made more enemies, no matter it is a Donald Trump or Joe Biden, whosoever is supporting them, whosoever is providing them intelligence, whosoever is providing them these weapons. It is not going to, this war is not going to end on so-called sweet terms and conditions that Netanyahu is trying to lay down.
The growing tide of anti-Israel sentiments. What you see behind me is just tip of the iceberg of what is happening in the country. More than half of $52 billion black CIA budget is spent on espionage network in Pakistan. How would you handle it?
The US has looked upon Pakistan as an ally at one point and then as an enemy at the same time.
That is going to be the first legal reason on the basis of which he is going to be instantly ousted by the Supreme Court of Pakistan.
Joining us live, Javed Rana, who's an expert on politics and geo-strategic issues.
In the world politics, which is not being driven by any moral principle, it is being driven by the hard geo-strategic realities. In a broader picture, more countries would aspire to have nuclear weapons.